Hello and welcome to Smart Impressions. I'm Rachel and we're unlocking business relationships one connection at a time. So if you are looking to enter into the Gulf market, that's a GCC for those that don't know what the Gulf market means. We're here and this show is just for you because we are bridging continents and going global from the Gulf region. And I have some very experienced expert for doing this for tons of business. I want to welcome to the show Mr. Vineet Nambiar. Thank you so much for being here from International Business Week. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Rachel. Nice to see you as always.
It's always a pleasure. Now, I know you are rocking and rolling, talking to lots of businesses. What are people finding engaging or interesting to come into the Gulf region from other demographics around the world right now?
Right. Yeah. So it's interesting, Rachel. Back in the day, if you just look at the whole aviation story, when people wanted to travel around the world, back in the day, they used to fly Cathay Pacific from Hong Kong, and Hong Kong used to be that hub which connects you from east to the west. And then you had Singapore Airlines coming in. You had US and the Delta and all that stuff in Atlanta, which was the hub. Now, if you look around the world, even in terms of just basic connection, you got to fly Emirates, Etihad, or Qatar, right? If you want to go from east to west and west to east, and that's in a sense, it's very indicative of where the world is going in terms of which the new major global hubs are. And this is why expanding to the Gulf is not just about taking advantage of the massive local opportunities which you have. Like everyone's excited about Saudi these days, right? Everyone's excited about what UAE is doing. The whole, the rebirth, the resurgence of UAE, in fact, post-COVID, in fact, has been something astounding. But beyond that, what they actually see is that this is a fantastic launch pad. Yes, sure, to the Gulf and the Middle East, but also to Africa, India, and many other Asian markets as well. So this is uniquely positioning Gulf and you look at the map, bang in the center, you have you have these countries there, and the best thing is you'll never find a more easier place to do business in terms of regulations because there are no protective measures as such like you do have in many parts of the world to protect the local industries, but you don't. It's a much more open and dynamic trading market. So that's why Gulf is all set to be the launch pad to the world. So we say Gulf to the globe now.
I love it. And that's the name of the show. Well, there is no doubt you're tapping businesses in many different markets, from North America to Asia markets to India and even up out to Singapore, Hong Kong, and China. Now, there are clearly lots of challenges that people may encompass when they go into new markets. It's not easy to go global, for many companies. What are some of the unique challenges that you're uncovering for clients that are looking to make that leap?
Right. So specifically, now let me take a minute. You mentioned Hong Kong, right? So I chaired the Hong Kong Middle East Chamber as an external affair for the external affairs. And if you look some of the challenges which businesses in Hong Kong or the Greater Bay Area, the mainland China, is how do you penetrate a market like the Gulf, right? And it's the cultural challenges about understanding that it's not very transactional as you may be used to say in the West. Here, it's all about building that relationship, taking time to not come once, but visiting multiple times and building those relationships. And in a sense, we're very tribalistic about all these kind of things. It's about the level of trust factor matters a lot. Because I was born and raised in Qatar, I understand that very well. That we generally take a lot more time than the average guy, in Asia or the West, to actually trust someone to actually do business, and trust is so key here. You can sign all the agreements in the world, you could have all the legal contracts in place, but if you don't have that trust, you can always things can just fail, just like a pack of cards. So the fact is you have to take the time to come invest in that and be patient, because if you're able to do that, trust me, it's worth all the time, because there's nothing, no market like this where the margins are so good, where your return on investment is so high compared to other markets, and it's a much easier place to do business. So that's what I keep telling. The biggest challenge is for you to take that time to keep coming down, having a presence in the region, building that relationships, penetrating that ecosystem.
I love that, because we are unlocking business relationships one connection at a time. And so you may come meet the right person, and then it's about building that trust, which I think has to only be done face to face Like, I know we're digital today, but we're like optimizing that digital relationship. You and I have met numerous times outside of the computer, and like really trying to add that value so that people see how important it is to make those steps, to build those relationships. And it does take time, right? So how crucial do you think it is for businesses to find the right companies, at least particularly partnerships, when they enter into these markets? Because you do something that's fascinating as well, and I don't mean to toot your horn, but you also gather the right suppliers together so that they know who to actually engage with, so it does not become like an ice cold engagement, or spending time looking for the right person that can help them with some of their needs when they come into a new market, right?
Right. So yeah, so I think you touched upon a very important point: finding the right strategic partner, which is so key. Um, this market is very much about connections. It's true about most markets, but you must understand a very fundamental truth about the Gulf market. 90% of the businesses, the private businesses, are family owned or family led. And what that means is a lot of these companies which are looking to enter sometimes try to find a strategic partner which has those kind of networks, which has those kind of deep tentacles into the system, right? But the challenge here is everyone's after the big top 10 guys, right? Or those big families or big holding companies. And that's where I think they fundamentally make that mistake, right? It's not about going after the biggest group ever in the region. It's about finding the hungry group. Sure, they may not be $1 billion family business, but they could be 100 million or $50 million. But they want to be the next $1 billion business. And sometimes, hitching your wagon with these kind of groups makes a lot more sense than actually going with a big, huge group who, frankly, may not care too much about your business because they have so many big things, which they're involved with. So I think that's very key, and that's why we tell people. So one of the things which, as an international accelerator, one of the things which we do is to introduce people to those hungry groups. And you mentioned it. You need to be with the right kind of group. Sometimes a big group may not exactly be a great strategic fit with you guys. So finding that group, big, small, doesn't matter. Don't chase, I'm after the big shake. No, that's not the way. Find the right guy who's more hungry, and he's going to get you those results.
Amazing. And so clearly there's no doubt there's a huge advantage, and you already have those relationships. And I know you've mentioned your international accelerator of like what kind of areas of the business besides like the family groups for investment or partnerships, and what about suppliers and other needs that businesses may look into when they enter a new country in the Gulf?
Right. So there's a whole supplier ecosystem, which is the key about when it comes to suppliers is it's about reliability fundamentally and on-time delivery, right? Along with obviously the pricing considerations. So that's where I always recommend people to be part of strong networks, these supplier networks. They could be trade focused, they could be other networking groups, because your association with those networks, in a sense, makes sure that you make, in a sense, involves you taking the time out and making that commitment and building that relationship. And that means they have to, they're in a sense forced to reciprocate, and they're forced to deliver. So it's so key to be part of those groups, right? It's so key to identify, if you're a logistics guy, what kind of logistic associations or groups you need to be part of. If you're a tech guy, or you're a Web3 guy, or you need to find those crucial networks where who are actually going to be critical suppliers, or anyone in your supply chain, depending on the kind of industry you are. So find those networks, find those associations, and actively engage with them. Not just go and buy a membership there, but actually engage and build those support systems.
Relationships, right? And there's no doubt when it comes to strategic partners with like family officers and whatnot, what areas of industries is your forte right now? What are you specializing in? Because clearly there's a lot of different industries happening in town in the Gulf, and each one of the regions may vary a little bit based on what their growth potential is and so forth. Where are you focusing specifically?
So historically, if you notice, this region has been primarily about big projects like energy and engineering related. But going forward, what we're seeing a lot of demand is, one is the life sciences part. When I say life sciences, it could be healthcare, it could be pharma, it could be food and agro processing. It's an industry that's never going to die. And there's always this, exciting, sexy industry like Web3, tech, and which is great. They're always going to be there. But the fact is, an industry like life sciences, they're never going away. You're never going to say, "Oh, the market's bad. I'm going to stop eating." Right? It's just you're just going to have that kind of demand. Healthcare is never dying. So these are some basic genuine. So one of the things we're actually working is to get a lot of life sciences focused of funds and investors into the region.
Mm.
It could be Hong Kong, Singapore. It could be based in India as well. We're looking actively at the region to capitalize on those opportunities, right? And also to find potential co-investors who'd like to want to invest in that part of the world, where you have huge populations, as you know. So life science is one industry. Having said that, tech is never going to get boring, and especially if we're in the world of AI, it's just that I feel sometimes we just overusing or over abusing the scope of
Term.
it. I think .com bubble again, but these are some key industries we've focused on. But lifestyle, retail, hey, that's another industry which is reinventing itself. So something which we'll be looking out to, because sustainability is a big theme in fashion. I'd like to see how those industries are coming along. But we're generally agnostic, but these are some of the key industries which we've traditionally focused on.
Amazing. Well, I love to have you here because your expertise is no doubt, one of these special ones where you're bringing people to the region and you're working with all these different countries and you're working with a number of different industries. And so I highlight that it really varies, but there are some that are key where your expertise lie. This show is unfortunately a little too short to give it all here in such a long amount of time. And we only have 15 minutes. So I want to make sure our listeners jump into the conversation. If you find this conversation helpful and you have key questions about your industry that maybe Vineet can actually answer, jump in, make a post, and let us engage with you online. We love to have you here. We're so grateful that you're here. And one more question to leave everybody with at least 3 tips, which is what we like to do each show, is basically how would you, prioritize 3 key strategies that you would recommend and effectively gather market insights or navigating the regulatory landscapes in the Gulf region for businesses that are looking to expand?
Right.
Give me
So
top.
my top 3, right. So the first thing what I would strongly recommend, Rachel, is there are a lot of free zones and authorities in the region, right? So if you're a fintech company, if you're a finance or investment-based company, you have, for example, the IFC in Dubai, but you also have ADGM in Abu Dhabi. You get a lot of these opportunities. Engage with them. There are a huge network of resources there. They will even support you in ways which we traditionally won't get supported in, say, some of the other hubs in the world. And so find out what's right for you. And if you're production linked, if you're manufacturing linked, go for those emerging ecosystems sometimes, because you have those amazing funds and grants which you don't associate with. So that's number one. Go with the front. Now, the second thing which I would say is this is huge ecosystem of accelerators, incubators out there. You would be surprised the amount of influential people who are willing to give a lot of time just for you to succeed without wanting anything in return. They're mentors. There are a lot of people who want to give back to society. Be part of those accelerator programs. You'd be surprised the kind of funds and grants that are out there, even governmental and non-governmental, which you could tap into. I've seen so many of undeserving ones, accessing them just because they were there at the right place at the right time. So you're missing out on that. So tap into those accelerators, incubators. That's my second point. The last, but probably the most important, is find your niche. 20 years back when I got started, I've done so many ventures. That's how it started out. It was a travel tech venture, but it wasn't initially starting out. It was like a run-of-the-mill software services company, but they found a niche in the travel agent back office system, and they hyper-focused on that. And all those big American tech companies weren't too keen on that very niche opportunity. They were after the 100 million deal, 100 million opportunities. So by focusing on that, what we did is we ended up having 60 to 70% market share in the region, because we were able to solve a problem by hyper focusing on it, by hyper customizing it. So find your niche. That's your entry strategy, and then build on that. Don't come up with your entire menu of items. So those are my 3 ideas and strategies that I would suggest. The free zones, the accelerator incubator networks, and last but not the least, find your niche.
Very, very cool. Now, listen, before we end the show, I want to let people know how the best way to reach you. Now, I know that January, you're working on a big event in Abu Dhabi. You're going to be bringing in a number of people. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Right. So it's our annual summit that time of the year. Every year, you were there in the last summit, and we were very fortunate to have you anchor one of our sessions. So yeah, so it's that time of the year. We have some of our, a lot of the international companies, ventures, investors, family businesses who we work with. So this is how we kickstart the year. It's a place where new deals or new partnerships are forged, new deals happen, and it's a great time. It's at the Yas Island this time. We're working closely with our partners in Abu Dhabi, and it's going to be fun. It's kickstart your year with a nice retreat. So the 14th to 16th. If anyone's interested, you can reach out. I can put a link up there. You can register, and yeah, our team will get in touch with you.
Amazing. Well, Vinny, it's always a pleasure to hear your expertise, especially that you've joined us on Smart Impressions. I can't thank you enough. I'm grateful for you to even be here. I'm so glad we met. I love what you're doing and how many people you're impacting their business by just sharing the tips and tricks and tools about how they have to enter the golf market to really succeed successfully. And so I wish you all the best and keep going, because you're moving great things in this region at a great time. So thank you again for your time, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Rachel. Real pleasure, as always. Thank you. Love your energy.
Always. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And for everyone else, we can't wait to hear from you. So jump on. We just had our numbers around 70,000 views. So we're doing really great. We're providing great value, unlocking business relationships, one connection at a time. And if you are out there doing business in this town, then you got to listen in. So share it with your friends. And we'll see you next week, next Tuesday. Have a great day.